Tweet sent out.
I think we are live. Welcome into the FPL Departer first inaugural stream. I think we're just going to just make sure everything's running smooth before we get cracking on. Let's just make sure audio levels are set. I think. Yo. What's wrong?
Because you put it on just that kids setting, it's like it does with YouTube videos. It disables the chat, like it disables the comment.
Aha.
Yeah.
Let me edit that then. Let's go. No.
Don't know why you did that.
I was panicking with 2 seconds to go.
No.
All right. There we go. Let's hope that solves that problem. Let us know in the chat or on Discord. Yeah, make sure you refresh if there's any issues.
And then you should have the chat back after you refresh.
All right, let's wait until we get somebody. We've got the banner ticking down the bottom. That's what we want. That's the one we want as well. I think we're good to go.
My chat's back.
Chat's back?
My chat's back, yeah. That's how I noticed. I went disabled and you said the kids mode thing. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's done.
There we go. Let me make sure I get the video live on my end. We are live. Why can't I watch it though?
Yes. Thank you very much, Rods, or Swishes, you know, on the channels.
All right, there we go. We're live. Live chat's on. The replay's on. Bang. I want to open that in a new tab ideally, but it's not wanting to work for me, so it doesn't matter. I don't need it. All right, let's have a look. What are we? How's the audio sound, Rods, as well? We good to go? I'm hoping we're good to go. I can't get the video to play side by side, but that's fine. I'm sure Dame's got it.
Yeah, I've got videos. I got, as long as you can see the chat, mate, that's it.
Yeah. All right.
Apparently, we sound lovely. Thank you, Matt.
All right, there we go. So you're getting the chat a little bit before I am. There we go. Now I've got us up and running. Obviously, I've got us muted. All right, that looks better to me. All right, I think we are ready to make a start. So let's get straight into it. So welcome along to the continuation of the FPL show. Obviously over here on the FPL Departer channel as of now. So if you haven't already, make sure that you like the stream. That is really important that you do like the stream. It does help us move the content out to a bigger audience. And also, if you haven't already, let's make sure that you guys are subscribing because, again, it's a startup channel. We're brand new. It's the same three faces that you normally see from, obviously, on my channel. My links or my channel is Paulie29. Damo's down there on the bottom with Damo_23. So if you do want to subscribe to our channels, feel free to subscribe to those as well. But another big week of fantasy and lots of talking points, and that's exactly what we're here tonight to break down and discuss. So throughout the night, if you've got questions, make sure you're leaving them in the chat as well, and we'll make sure that we go from there. So let's have a crack at this. How did we go over the weekend, guys? Little quick talking points.
I'm actually half okay with the points I got, even though I got another downward arrow. I dropped, I think, about 60 places, which is nothing. So I basically held.
Yeah, and I'll comment on mine. I went up about 800,000 spots this week after two big down arrows with a -8 in the end, which I wasn't talking about on stream last Thursday. So I ended up taking a -8. So I will show you guys what that -8 ended up looking like. But to take a -8 and go up, 700,000-800,000 spots and green arrows in the majority of my leagues was quite nice. And Dom, how did you go this week?
Dreadful again, but we'll get onto that. Another red arrow.
Yeah, all right. So we'll get into a bit of the discussion points around it, but I guess from our wild cards, it wasn't fantastic. I'll bring up my points from last week so you guys can see it. So hopefully that's come through well on the screen. So 55 points for me this week. Obviously, I made 3 transfers and took a -8. This is how my team lined up. So Sanchez in goal, 5-2 victory there for Brighton against Leeds. But again, 1-0 Sorry, 1-0. 1 point wasn't ideal, but we'll take it. Trent, 2 minutes away from, another 4 points there. And 4 points when you're taking a -8, is big. And everyone says, but everyone's got Trent. Not everyone's got Trent. When half the game's got Trent, those 4 points do make a big difference. And a lot of people were looking at getting off Trent anyway. Cancelo, frustrating by City. Obviously, predicted them to probably run away against Aston Villa and thought there might be a goal for Villa. We did say that, but also we found that Cancelo, once again, just not getting involved. Emerson Royale, 2 weeks in a row, this guy has been on the cusp of a clean sheet. The points look really good, and then they just conceded like a dumb goal. They did it against West Ham to Souček, and they did it to Mitrovic, who, granted, the finish was a nice finish from Mitrovic, but frustrating when I've dropped 8 points in 2 weeks because they've just conceded 2 goals. Bernardo was my the extra -4 player. I took a punt. I thought he'd play a lot of minutes, 72 minutes, granted, in a week with Champions League, still fine. But obviously, City only scored the 1 goal anyway. So he did get the pass to De Bruyne, who then whipped it in for Haaland. So I think I'm okay with having Bernardo at the moment. But the other option I was looking at was Rashford, and I kind of regret that a little bit. Salah things, we'll talk about him later. Martinelli, unlucky not to get a goal. Gross, 5. The big one for me, though, my boy, Ivan Toney. I stood firm with him. I said last week that returns are on the way. But you got to be patient. I know a few other people weren't patient, but with the fixture run he had, it was just too tempting to keep him in. So obviously Leeds could have got returns against Everton and Palace as well, but with Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton, Villa, Wolves, Forest, all before the World Cup, he will not be leaving my team. So that's where I'm at. And I said Brighton played Leeds. I meant Brighton played Leicester as well. Yeah. But overall, I'm happy. Like a few 50-50 things didn't go my way this week, but I'll still take 55 points and a green arrow, as I'm going to highlight that comment there. Ivan Toney equals Damo's worst nightmare. I think that's a good segue into Damo. Can you share just the Chrome tab, not your whole window, please? But can we get your team?
I don't know if it lets you share just the Chrome tab.
Yeah, it does.
I did not know that. Window, Chrome.
Don't
tab.
go window, go Chrome tab, and then share it up, and then we'll get into Damo's team. So obviously the vibe you can probably get from that is that Damo may or may not have got rid of Ivan Toney, but let's get into Damo's team.
Yep. I'm just going to start right there. It was more of it was a combination of things. I brought Toney in 2 blanks after not getting the points. Obviously a great player. Paul can back this up. I really do like Brentford, and I do rate Ivan Toney quite a fair bit. It was more the fact that there was no Jimenez news that he's being rested or whatever at all. And I was like, look, he's playing Southampton. It's a good fixture for him. All the press conferences that they've been speaking about with their new striker was that he was going to be just a backup option. He's now done his ACL, the poor lad, as well. The new signing. So they are look like getting Diego Costa, which I know Dom's pretty happy with. As well. More importantly, went to Jimenez instead of Toney. That's a 17-point swing. If we have a look at that 17-point swing would make me the highest out probably the group with the points. If you have a look at the points there, and I took a -4, so finished on 41, which if you look at my rank, I think I dropped 60 spots total, so I held. 44 points would have made me whole rank, so the fact that I got 45 plus the -4 shows that I kind of sat around. Trippier was really good. It's these 2 boys yet again. It's Cancelo and Trent. We've been through it enough. The Trent substitution is a 5-point swing because he also gets an extra point for playing 60-plus minutes, which gives him 1 extra point, plus then the clean sheet. So it would have been nice to see him get to 6. Cancelo, for me, I don't have really too many worries about. The clean sheets will come. He's probably not being as aggressive, but the fact he's so nailed for clean sheets, if they do end up keeping him, is, a player that I'm pretty happy with. At some point, I will get Edison in goal as well to double up there, I think. Their underlying numbers, their expected XG against them is like 0.2.
Yeah, extremely low at the moment.
And they're just conceding to nothing. We'll talk about
good goal
Salah.
by Bailey, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, it is. And can we just say, Leon Bailey, people had him, did nothing, trolled. We will take him out, assist, and then he plays City and wipes out their clean sheet where everyone has Cancelo. It's really annoying. Salah,
it's an FPL troll.
Yeah, Salah will talk about. I think this guy is so underrated.
Yeah, he's so good.
We all watched the game in the chat. I did fall asleep at halftime, woke back up to see that it was 5-2. It was like great.
That was a thriller. That was incredible.
Yeah, that was a great
So
game
good.
of football. I love the positions he gets in from the eye test. When he plays wide right, all the balls he whips in look like they're dangerous. But when this
And
guy
then he drifts in as well.
Yeah, when this guy goes central, it's next level. I am, and I know this might sound stupid, there's a part of me against them playing Bournemouth this week that wants to captain him because I just think there is points to be had there.
Almost when he gets Solly March in as well at 5 million because he looked unbelievable. He was just absolutely causing mayhem and
everyone
really direct.
In their midfield, in their forward line, it's
Looks
they
good.
just look so good. I can't keep up with how they movement, how they rotate, and
or the interchanging.
You can't keep up with you don't know what formation they play out. You couldn't. I'd love to see their heat maps. Like genuinely, I'd love to see their heat map. It would just be bonkers. If we don't know it, how's opposition going to know it?
Well, for them, it's the formation's a postcode. Everything morphs to where the ball is, and I love the idea and what they do. And they just
pick those lines, break those lines so easy.
I do too. I think it's great. By the way, Burger, good to see you in the chat. And Liam is Burger, so there you are as well. More importantly, then we got Martinelli, Andreas. The first time he doesn't return off my bench, he comes in. Of course, look at that on my bench, 8 points. Yeah. On my bench, 6 points. Bang, 2 points.
Tough fixture though.
It is, and I wasn't looking for much there. Hence why he's there. Jesus gets 1. I have no worries. Haaland finally comes back in captain. Beautiful. Thank you very much for scoring. It's now getting to a point where if he scores and you don't have him captain, immediate down in rank because he's owned by so many people. About to overtake Jesus. The one person I was really happy with that I wish did better was actually Aronson. I feel like he actually played okay. I love the position he gets in with Sinigestra. They combine really well. I actually think there's returns on the rise for Aronson with his fixtures. Forest, Villa, Palace, Man United defensively. I think
the reason why everyone wanted to bring Rodrigo in was because of the fixtures. So obviously there's got to be a return somewhere. So whether it's Sinistera, whether it's him, whether it's Jack Harrison.
Yeah, I think Sinistera out the lot looks fantastic. He looks like a quiet baller. So I'm actually really happy. I'm happy with the side for the first time in the 7 weeks or the 6 weeks going to week 7. There is obviously something that we'll talk about in this side as well. But look, it could have been better. It could have been worse. I looked at something which I don't think it will be able to show it here, so I'm not going to click the tab. I'm only 124 points outside the top 10, okay, which sounds like a lot, but that's only 4 points over the next 30 game weeks with 1 game week then to play with the game week 38.
That's you beating them every week, though, by 4 points.
If that's the goal and I aim for that, and even if I don't beat them, I'm going to beat most people ahead of me. I think this really is the potential to really showcase a nice rise and rank over time. Not to get to the top 10K, by the way. I'll be happy if someone tells me I finish this on the top.
Anything near top 100K at the moment, I think for us is what we're aiming for. But
I'm not even aiming
definitely
at that.
achievable.
Top 1 mil. But I'm just trying to take the positives here. Really look forward. And lastly, most importantly, I've got my name changed, boys. So if you ever see that fly up the leaderboard, FPL Depata is in the house.
Sometimes you just need it.
The name change. The name change is going to start the comeback of dreams. Once upon a time, and Wise Man did say there was a window of opportunity when 1 + 1 = 2, but it doesn't. I'm not going to go through that whole speech. This is my fantasy Premier League window of opportunity. Dom, how did your team go, lad?
Let's fire it up.
Share absolutely horrific.
Screen share that tab. Let's have a look.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Let's unpack it. Rip it off like a Band-Aid. Let's just do it as quick as possible, and we'll move on. So, obviously, I think there's positives, though, between the three of us at the moment.
There is.
Obviously, having Haaland back in all helps.
Did that work?
It is. Let me just add it now. Here we go. Here's Dom's team. Let's go. Let's get into it.
So, going into this week, the bloke I'm playing in my big money league, I see is Captain Ivan Toney. Shout out Ozan if you're in here. I start laughing. I say, all right, another win in the bag because I've lost 3 in a row in my big money league. I need the confidence booster. I had traded Ivan Toney out. Thought, yeah, I've had enough. I need to get Haaland back in. Haaland has his goal. Ivan Toney hat trick. Yeah. Lose my matchup. Let's go with the back four. I just had to get that one in there. I had to get off on my chest because that one really hurt. Sanchez won. He's just been so disappointing.
He's been good, though. They've just conceded some dumb goals that aren't his fault.
I don't get how, as good as they're playing, they're just conceding. And Brighton are normally, I don't know, unless they've changed their mentality, for it's If you score
No,
two,
I
we
still
score
think they've been
five.
good.
They started strong though too. It's just been the last 2 weeks where they've
The last 2
conceded dumb
weeks they've
goals.
conceded. It's
But I'm
Fulham,
lucky I have the Sanchez
and,
Raya, which I might
Yeah,
back in.
I'm
Raya
just
in a
riding
couple of weeks.
Sanchez.
same
Yeah,
here.
Anyway,
but
continue.
Perisic up bench threw me out. Perisic, I mean, he must just be starting in the Champions League this week. That one hurt, but he wouldn't have got the. Oh no, he would have got the clean sheet because he would have come off before the goal.
Yeah, he came off 90 minutes though from the week before as well. That was part. So a lot of people were
Probably
saying
should have
that.
seen it coming, but
He didn't have much to play with on the bench either. You weren't going to start Emerson against Chelsea too.
Chelsea, yeah. I should have. This is poor on my part. I thought Emerson was on loan from Chelsea. I didn't realize that we sold him outright, so I thought he wasn't going to play. But anyway, Saliba 0, that hurt. Did not think they would ship 3. Just didn't see that coming. Arnold 1, don't even go there, and Cancelo hurts. Salah we'll touch on. Martinelli has just been traded out for Rashford, and I beat the price rise by 10 minutes. Pascal Gross I brought in, happy with him, happy with Brighton. Just Luis Diaz, who I also brought in this week. I'm going to ride him for a while because I think he is just looking electric, and you boys can back me up on that. And then Haaland does Haaland, and Jesus 1. And I'm going to be very critical on Jesus. I think he's just overhyped.
Yeah, I'm ready to move him. I think
he's had that 19. He had that 19. Fair enough, everyone had him. But other than that, he's only scored one other goal.
Yeah,
he's had a 1, a 4, and a 2 to go with his 6 since 19.
You cannot move him for the next 2 game weeks, though. He's got Everton then Brentford. The odds on he's scoring.
That's my thought. And then Mitrovic. This is my thought. Him for the next 2 weeks, and Mitrovic's fixtures turn, and it's a straight down in game week 10.
And you're banking 1.5.
I don't mind that. He's only by 78%. So if he bangs, you don't have him. It's the half.
He's going to start playing Europe as well, though. That's the other thing.
I'm tempted by it too, so that's fine.
I've definitely.
And then after game week 8, he goes Tottenham, Liverpool, Leeds, City. He has to be gone after that Brentford game. 100% gone. And with Europe, and with FA Cup, and with FA Cup doesn't start till next year. Carabao Cup. He's going to be gone into the World Cup, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my team.
All right, let's start moving because you've mentioned Luis Diaz. I think we'll get straight into the nuts and bolts of tonight's podcast. So, as you can tell by the title, we're of the camp that we're going to start considering what we do with Mo Salah. So, I might quickly, before I share what I want to share, let me get the photo up that we can get some. Actually, Dom, you able to load that photo up for me that you sent earlier and just share that?
I'm going to stop sharing. Which one? Sorry,
the heat map. Yeah, I want to go through Salah's heat map because I've watched every Liverpool game so far this season, and I think as is Damo, and we're really concerned at Salah's positioning at the moment, and that's what's concerning. He's playing extremely wide. It's creating space inside for Trent, but what it's then doing is it takes Salah out of those moments that he can really look to attack. So that's the heat map of Salah versus Everton. Now, any other day, he could potentially walk away with a goal. We win in the 90th minute, and we're not contemplating it. We know.
But the reality is, he didn't.
The reality is he didn't. And the reality is he's not putting himself in positions to have the 4s and 5 opportunities moving forward. So I haven't gone and statted out Salah. So I don't know, Damo, as I'm talking, if you want to pull up sort of his data. So we've got a bit of a comparison to the players that we're going to talk about. But we are considering, if you're in a position where you can hold on to a transfer this week, the main question is, do you move on Salah next week after Wolves at home with 2 transfers? If you've got 2 transfers this week, are you planning on moving Salah? And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to sort of look at some of the options that you can play around with in order to make some money. So let me just quickly share my screen. We'll start with the first player that Dom wants to talk about, which is Luis Diaz. Now, I don't know how I feel about Luis Diaz at the moment because the eye test is good. He's getting involved. He's hit the post again at the weekend. But my worry is Jota's back. Jota's in the squad. There's going to be rotation. There's going to be European football. There's going to be all these factors. at 8.2 million, he's definitely a discount on Salah. And if you want to make sure you've got a Liverpool forward, then he's an option. But this is sort of the breakdown for the next month. We get Wolves at home, Chelsea away, Brighton at home, Arsenal away, 8.2 million. You get 3 goals out of him when he's had an XG of 2.28. He's had an expected assist of 0.72 with 0 assists. So he's not someone who is going to provide assists. He's the guy that gets on the last ball, and he's the one that's taking the shots, because you can see in 6 games, he's had 16 shots and 14 of them are in the box. And he's had 3 big chances as, goal scoring opportunities. That doesn't include assists, those big chances. And he's only made 4 key passes. So you can see that for FPL points, he's definitely someone that can be involved, and he has been involved. But I think there's a bit of risk with Luis Diaz because of the other factors and the way that we're playing as well. For the next month, I'd almost avoid any Liverpool attackers, because you don't know what the long-term goal is or what the shape's going to be. So what are your guys' thought looking at those stats there on Luis Diaz?
I like him, don't get me wrong, and as a Liverpool fan, I've watched a lot, and he's definitely the most aggressive out of the front three in terms of trying to get inside and take shots on. Very unlucky not to score against Everton. I look at those fixtures and look at the price, and I'm like, there's got to be a little bit of an eye on what Liverpool have done so far, and with those fixtures, Wolves historically better defensively, are with the 4, but you then walk into Chelsea, Brighton have defended really well, and then Arsenal, and the Chelsea and Arsenal games are away. I just think there's other midfielders that you could move to that have better fixtures and better underlying numbers.
Who we're going to look at in a minute.
Which I think we will. If you compare him to Salah directly, I do think for the first time we're saying this in the 5-6 seasons Salah's been in an FPL, there's a guy at Liverpool that can match his numbers consistently over time. Mane could do it in periods. I just think the way that Salah's playing compared to what Diaz is, Diaz would be the better option out of the 2 at the moment.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with that too. Yeah. And at 5 million less.
Yeah, allows you to do a lot more things. I will touch on the assist thing. If the ball hits the post from a shot, falls to someone, keeper makes a save against him, he's taking a lot of shots, there would be assists eventually for him from people tapping in efforts that he's put on target. So I think there's going to be assists from him too. I think if you are going to go Liverpool, he's the guy. I wouldn't touch Nunez. I have some strong opinions on Nunez, but Diaz is probably the pick of the bunch if you can look in the Liverpool route. Yeah.
And Dom, obviously, you'd be backing him and hoping he does well over these next sort of 4 games, because he's sitting firm in your team. So, if Salah is out, then at least you can free up that 5 mil. So let's move it on. Yeah. Unless you've got anything you want to add on top. He's looking dangerous. I'll give him that.
Yeah, like what he's touched on. In previous years, we would just rely on Salah having those 4 or 5 chances and he'd score 1 or 2 or 3. Now he's only getting 1, Yeah. And I mean, it just looks like a different player. I don't know if he needs a bit of a spell, but he just looks a different player. And it's just a different system. If you trade him, it's hard. If you just not,
Because then the flow on at the moment, sorry to cut you off, the flow on is Trent's not getting in the same areas as he was too. So then the issue is we're carrying 2 really expensive premiums that are playing different roles that we didn't expect this season. And that's more the worry for me, is that we've paid 7.5 for Trent, we've paid 13 for Salah, because they've had consistent roles and have had consistent output. Exactly. It's a big portion of your budget. Trent is a little bit different to Salah because he's drifting more inside. He's still capable of getting the assists and the goals. Maybe not as many assists, but he's probably more likely to get more goals this year because he's going to have more opportunities to have those shots like he did against Bournemouth outside of the box, where he's shown in the past that when he has been in those positions, he's actually been pretty good. Like, my mind goes to the Leicester game a few years ago, Boxing Day, where he scored an absolute screamer as well. He likes coming in around that right-hand channel of the box and approaching the ball and hitting it from outside. So I think the goal threat with Trent's going to be a bit higher than normal, but his assist threat's going to be a bit lower. So the consistency of his points might be lower unless Klopp goes, all right, this isn't working. We need to kind of tweak the system. But I think part of it is we don't have the engine room anymore that we had. So Trent's coming inside to support Harvey Elliott on that side. And then Harvey's turning into the player that's actually out on the wing. So as Dame mentioned 2 weeks ago, Elliott at 5 mil could almost be an option because he's the one that's getting into the dangerous areas more than Salah. So anyway,
yeah, he's making that overlapping run, which is really good in Harvey, and he's dual-footed. And on that right-hand side, I think you allude on a really strong point. Our midfield's causing this issue because we're making Trent have to come in as an extra midfielder, which is forcing Salah to keep shape so we can recycle the ball a bit wider. I do think if we had the proper midfield, you'd really see Salah look to get really inside again. And then that obviously makes him the much better FPL asset than we all expect him to. I will also put out there that with Salah, and we're looking at Diaz, we know the quality's there. And if he ever flicks a switch and hits form, then you're going to want him back in because he could go on a run for 8, 10, 12 games where he scores a goal a game. It's just more the system. I think it's a combination. Other teams wising up to know Salah's really not got a right foot. And apart from when he scores a worldie off it.
Why are they taking 5 years to realise that?
Because teams can now figured us out enough that if
because they're not having to deal with Trent on the overlap too, though. That's the other thing.
And that's
so they can just sit inside on that left foot because they don't have to worry about giving Trent that space down the line.
Because he has to come inside to help out our midfield that is kind of underperforming, but undermanned.
All right.
It's just a knock-on effect.
With Diaz, that's probably about it. Good option, but he's not my favourite of the 5 that we're going to look at tonight. So let's move it on. If I can click on the right screen. Here we go. We've mentioned Leandro Trossard once already tonight, so we'll just go through it a bit quicker. So game week 7 and 8, very, very good fixtures, but then 9 and 10, you're kind of not ideal, especially if we've all got gross. I wouldn't want to be double Bournemouth game week 9 and 10. 2 goals, 2 assists, 1.5 XG, 0.86 expected assists. He's had 11 shots in the box, which is actually really big to see. And he's had 11 key passes playing mostly in that left wing back role. At 6.5 million, I think he's a very good value because he'll either play as a 10 or he'll either play as a left wing back. So he's kind of locked in at the moment into the team, which is really positive to see. But 6.5 is starting to push those upper limits when it comes to the prices as well. Obviously, Diaz being 8, the next few guys aren't really in that bracket, I don't think. I can't remember the order, but we've kind of spoken about him already. So I think we're at that point where with Brighton, if you're going to do it, you got to do it now with Brighton because you're going to have to move one of them in 2 weeks' time. Dom, do you want to touch on Trossard at all?
Yeah. Watching the game yesterday, he looked really, really good. I think he always had that potential, and there was a bit of hype when he signed in the league, and he kind of showed glimpses in his past however many years he's been in it, but he just looks really, really good. Looks a player.
Took his finish well as well last night.
Yeah, he's great in front of goal. He gets into great positions. I think he has a big possibility of assists as well. I think, what's their fixtures like after that game week 10? If you can
got him here. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, so I think with him...
After game week 10, it's Brentford, Nottingham Forest, then City, Chelsea, then Wolves, Aston Villa. So you get after this this round, it goes 2 games good, 2 games bad, 2 games good, 2 games bad, all the way to the
That's
World
not
Cup,
bad.
Which is okay.
I just don't know if I want to go triple Brighton, though.
Yeah, if you're going to ride someone, you'd be riding Pascal Gross.
Yeah, I think it's out of Gross or Trossard. The only thing I will touch on is if you haven't played your wild card and you're playing it in game week 9 for the international break, or game week 8 into 9, or game week 9 itself, I would be riding them as a 2-game week punt right now. Any of the Brighton options, even triple up on them. 2-game week punt, wild card out if you have that option. So I think he's very, if you're playing a wild card in 2 game weeks and you're going to move Salah down the Trossard, and that leaves you money to maybe even take a 2-game week punt on, someone else or a higher price of Sterling or whatever.
Yeah, with better fixtures.
With better fixtures, I think that's a very smart move. If you're
get around Bruno Fernandes or something like that.
Yeah, and then take your wild card.
Yeah. All right. I don't think there's much more to go on with Trossard because we did speak about him a little bit. I think I'd want to see a run of him playing in the 10, though. Once Estupiñán's up and firing, he's obviously going to be the left wing back. So there is going to have to be a bit of a rejig of the shape because last night it was 3 flat midfielders. I think Mwepu is probably the one that misses out. And then it ends up being 2 in behind Danny Welbeck. And that 2 looks like it's going to be Gross and Trossard in behind Welbeck with Caicedo and McAllister sitting as the 2 centre mids there. So if that's the shape then I'm comfortable. But obviously, Trossard's sort of been pushed around a little bit. So let's move on. Damo, you mentioned Raheem Sterling, and that's who's up next. So 10 million at the moment. So we just missed getting on him at 9.9. Fulham, Crystal Palace, Wolves, 3 out of the next 4 with Liverpool at the bridge. I think that's 4 pretty good fixtures for Chelsea and 4 very good fixtures for Raheem Sterling. He's going to be someone who I think we're going to struggle with defensively. 3 goals, 1 assist, 2 XG, 1.84 X assist, 11 shots, and 10 of those 11 shots have been in the box, with 4 of them being big chances and 8 key passes. I really like what I'm seeing from Sterling. I just didn't like the way Tuchel lined up the other night against West Ham. I think they need to be playing 3-4-3, not 3-5-2, because of that game changed once Brozier went up front and they had a bit more of an outlet and they had someone up there, and they didn't even have it to an extent, but they needed someone up there to support more than just having Sterling and Pulisic, because I just felt like there wasn't enough presence up front. But if Sterling's a part of a 2 with a bit of a bigger body next to him, and if that bigger body tends to be Aubameyang, then I think the Sterling, Aubameyang, Pulisic or Mount, whoever is going to be on the left, Dom, you might be able to comment on it a bit further. But I think if it's a front 3 of Aubameyang, Sterling and somebody else, I think that's going to be really dangerous with Cucurella, Chilwell. And we saw what Chilwell did when he came on for 10 minutes. And Reece James out wide. I think Chelsea players could definitely be the option, even from now. But if you really wanted to wait till after Liverpool, then you've got no issue because the fixtures are very good after game week 9 as well.
I'll start and then I'll leave it to Damo, because Damo is the one who's really big on Sterling. But as the Chelsea fan, I've said it for a while, their team's very, very unsettled. A lot of transfers in, a lot of transfers out. And I've been saying for a few weeks, let them settle. Let Tuchel find his system. Let them sign a 9. And then I think you should be jumping on them. Once they're a bit more flowing, the system on the weekend was just all over the place. They just 3-5-2, no Jorginho in the middle. Gallagher looks off of it. The back 5, incredible. Fofana, Koulibaly, Silva, James, and either Cucurella or Chilwell. And that's a big part of these forwards being able to do what they can do. So I think I would be looking at probably after game week 8, Sterling.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting, once Aubameyang's fit, there's a bit of uncertainty with his face injury, but I think they've sent him over to Paris to get a mask up already. But they look like Brozier. He wants to blood Brozier, so that would be good because I think his hold-up play will really help the 2 playing off of him. Or you could even see Brozier and then Aubameyang and Sterling either side. But I think Sterling's a lock to start every week. And we have quite an easy run Champions League-wise, where I think he'll rest Sterling. I think Sterling's a lock for your league. And Damien, you've been really vocal on him, so I'll handball over to you.
Look, I watched the full game that they played when they got beat by Leeds 3-0.
Wasn't great.
I thought, out of Chelsea not being great, the position Sterling was getting in, looking to come in on his right foot, I really liked him in the 9. I think he was a better option when Aubameyang not being there, because he was in the 9 being up front getting all these chances. But I do think conversely, when Aubameyang's there, it's going to free him up to still come inside playing off the left-hand side. But what I liked was the positions he's getting in, the fact he's going to be nailed, plus his underlying numbers at City were really good when he did play. I just think there is a baller here that is waiting to be there, to be used. Am I going to go for him? He's on my hit list. There's a couple of guys that I am looking at too, which are maybe a bit more punty. And that's maybe more of a reflection that I'm 5.8 mil in the world and I might need to go for it, so to say. But if I was going to go a bit more safer in my Salah replacements, I think you could get him in right now if you had 2 free transfers. I want to make a couple of changes for when I want to take Salah out. Is there part of me that wants to take Salah out this game week to get him in for Fulham and then ride him against Liverpool, ride him through the rest? Yes, there is. Am I? I don't know yet. But out of the list that we have compiled coming up, from what I've seen in the eye test of his positions coming inside, I think this could be your go-to, and you're saving a couple, a few mil there as well.
Yeah, 3 mil. 3 mil goes a long way too. Whether it's an upgrade defensively or it's turning a 4.5 million forward into a 7 million forward, then, do you really need to go down to a 6.5 midfielder? Because what's the extra cash really going to do when you can only use 2 moves a week? $3 million's enough to turn, another average player into someone. And as Burgess says, Sterling's only 10% owned, so he is a differential player. I'd say anyone under 25% is a differential player, to be perfectly honest, when you're talking about 10 million people playing the game. So, definitely someone that I've got my eye on as well, especially if he can lock that right wing position down, because I think the interplay with him and Reece James could be massive moving forward. So that's sort of where we're at with Raheem the Dream. Obviously, him not having a huge week probably helps a little bit with regards to his price, like erratically rising, but sitting around the 10 million mark, put 3 million into somewhere else, then that is more than fine. So here we go. Dom's boy, he's pounced on Marcus Rashford, someone we spoke about early in pre-season, who looked a good option, but we didn't know the extent of where he was playing or if he was in the 11 or what was happening, and we wanted to wait and see. Now, he's got 3 goals from an XG of 2.07 with 2 assists, with a 1.45, 15 shots, 12 in the box, and 7 key passes. And he's someone who, from the eye test, is going to be very similar to Luis Diaz with regards to the ball getting played to him through. So, again, I'm not expecting lots of assists, and the fact that he's got 2 at this stage of the season is probably a big bonus. But he's someone who could really have 4 goals. He did miss a big chance against Brighton in the first game as well. Yep. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Marcus Rashford. My worry or my main concern is regarding just them moving forward. I just don't know. I've just got that extra doubt. Like I've got the same doubt I have with Bernardo, because I was looking at Rashford or Bernardo last week. And, if I went Rashford, then I would look like an absolute genius. But I just feel like I know Martial has always had injury problems, but that's always going to cause mayhem. I think Sancho and Anthony are really going to be locked on either wing. So the only spot that's in that team that's there to be nailed is up front. And when you've got three options there, it does concern me a little bit. Dom, maybe do you want to start with your thoughts on why you've brought him in amongst sort of some of those doubts that I've got?
I watched the 25-minute highlights of the game when I woke up this morning, and at his price, playing as a number 9, and I think Ten Hag really, really likes him. But the big thing is he's playing as a 9. I don't think Ronaldo looks anywhere near that team. There was all the drama with him, and
it's
what
not
I
Ronaldo.
really, yeah,
it's
no,
definitely
so
not Ronaldo. I'm worried about. It's Martial.
No, I just don't think Martial. I think Ten Hag's Marcus Rashford's Ten Hag's kind of player. He's come through the youth system. The fans love him. He's got that behind him. And Anthony and Sancho on the wings. That Anthony looks a bowler. He looks good.
He looks so solid.
He looks like they're going to provide once Bruno picks up. Eriksen creating from a bit deeper. They've finally binned Shaw and Wan-Bissaka. They got Dalot, and they just actually look really good. They actually just look really good. The whole team around him. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But the big thing is he's playing as a 9.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we spoke about in pre-season, was if he does play consistently down the middle, then there's going to be goals to be had. I really do want to bring him in. Would I bring him in for Salah? I don't know. It's a big downgrade, and I wouldn't be doing it anytime soon. I think the fixtures turn in a decent way from that Everton game. Like Crystal Palace and Leeds are 2 very good fixtures as well. Palace is an okay fixture. Leeds is a good fixture. City's one where he could definitely score on the break. Yep. And then from Everton, I don't know if, Dame, you might have it in front of you or not.
Everton, Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea.
That's not great.
Then it goes Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, West Ham. And then he ends before the World Cup, Villa and Fulham. And that touches me onto my point. I think, is he a Salah replacement? No. Do I think he's a 2-game week punt right now before your wild card in game week 9? Yeah, I don't mind that, so to say. I have very hard locks on this guy long term, as in big hard no. I think he could be potentially a big trap long term. I do think long term it will be Montreal through the 9, and then he's going to be fighting between Anthony and, of course, on the other side as well in Sancho. And I think if you're Ten Hag, what are you weighing up more? A run in the Europa League or in the group stage where you should win easy most games with your rotated side, or you're rotating through the league? I think Rashford's going to be someone you see start a lot of games for United in the Europa League. And Rashford is someone that's going to play well for them in the Europa League. And with 5 subs, will get minutes off the bench. I think long term, especially after game week 10, it'll be a front three of Montreal, Sancho, and of course on the other side there, Anthony. And you'll see that Rashford's minutes might dwindle. If his form continues, do expect him to start. Do I think of him as a good 9? No. Do I think of him as a 9 that can hit you on the break? Yeah. I just think Montreal is a bit more from what you saw in pre-season. From the comments you see from Ten Hag, is going to be a bit more nailed in the 9. I also think the fact
Just
that
depends how he comes back
there,
from this injury, though, as well. That's the other problem.
True.
He only played 45 minutes.
I think the fact Ronaldo's there, I see a world where against Leeds Ronaldo and against Everton, Ten Hag goes, we're going to dominate a bit more here. Ronaldo starts up top as well. I think he's going to put that in his back pocket as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to read into the Ronaldo stuff. And that's part of the reason why I don't want to go near Rashford, because there could be a period where Ten Hag goes, well, he is a good player. If I get him till January, then I'll use him till January.
Yeah, and I think
you know what I mean. Like, there's just that it's just a constant with Bernardo. So I'll make the comparison with Bernardo. I'm comfortable with him starting as a centre mid or out on the right wing because he's just such a good. Like, I'm backing the quality of him over, Mahrez, who's not starting at all at the moment. But with Rashford, I'm not backing Rashford against Ronaldo. I'm backing Ten Hag to get the team to keep winning so that Ronaldo keeps sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I'm not backing the better player there. I'm backing that he should start.
Yeah.
But I'm backing the system. In a perfect world, I'd rather back the player, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's just a big risk. Like, if Bernardo gets benched, I can ride it because Pep Roulette, I know what I'm buying. But with Rashford, I'd feel pretty shitty if, he just finds his way to the bench because Martial gets fit or Ronaldo does something in training, or he does decide, I do want to play for my spot here, and turns it around. Then there's a selection dilemma that's not in favor of Rashford. That's the only reason I didn't pick him this week. And it looks worse because he got a big return. Yeah. But it is what it is.
And I feel like, just lastly touching on the Ronaldo thing, I don't think it's the games in those big games. I feel like Ronaldo is a bit more of the passenger because he doesn't press. It's the games where United are expected to dominate and have 60-65% of the ball is where you probably might start Ronaldo, because you don't need to press as much because you got the ball a bit more. And I think those games are coming up. That's Leeds and Everton for me. Palace, I think Rashford starts, obviously. I think he's nailed. And if he scores again, and he'll be nailed against Leeds, which is why I think he would be a very good 2-game week punt. But I think after that, fixtures aren't particularly great. This one's a miss for me.
All righty. I think we've got to our last player, and it's someone who's been in our teams not too long ago, Kevin De Bruyne. City fixtures are a bit hit and miss. Obviously picked up an assist at the weekend for Erling Haaland. 12.2 million. Midfielder goes Tottenham home, Wolves away, United home, Southampton home. So 3 out of 4 games at home, which is nice, I must say, for Man City, with 1 goal, 4 assists, with an XG of 1.79, expected assist of 3.66. The surprising stat for me is that he's had 17 shots, but only 6 of them have been inside the box, with 21 key passes. None of us are going to doubt the quality Kevin De Bruyne has. I think we were just a bit frustrated that we predicted the rotation of Haaland against Nottingham Forest, and it ended up being Kevin De Bruyne who got the rotation minutes after we'd brought him in. But 12.2 million. Do you take the 0.8 back from Salah? Bit of a interesting role for De Bruyne. Some people, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about having De Bruyne as that Salah replacement just to keep the premium, to keep or have De Bruyne and Haaland. Like, think about how many times they're going to double up for points. How many times is De Bruyne going to directly assist Erling Haaland as well? Do you guys think it's a viable option to have De Bruyne and Haaland?
I did, but now I don't.
Why is that?
De Bruyne just got benched the week just gone.
But it wouldn't be as a form, though.
No, it's not a form.
He came straight back in.
It's just Pep's rotation. And you're backing in 2 Pep players.
I've done that.
With Cancelo.
I've got Bernardo. So I'm loaded. I'm triple City at the moment. So I can't do this move if I wanted to. I'm triple City. So it's up to you guys. I wouldn't at 12.2 and at 12 now with Haaland. It's a lot of money not to know. I think I said this to you guys off of camera. I'm happy to run the risk with Bernardo at 6.9 million because you can't expect him to play every game. But if he does return being in that system, then it's a huge bonus. And if his minutes start to dwindle, then I will look to move Bernardo a bit earlier. But it's a lot of money to put into two players that you're not locked in every week. That'd be my concern.
My concern is more the fact, do you want to triple up on that much money? There's definitely a world for it, and I do think it's definitely very viable. The reason I like it, which no one's mentioned, is you can get De Bruyne in, Salah finds form. It's only 0.8 mil to get Salah back, right? And Salah's about to go down in price with 0.7. And plus De Bruyne could go up in price as well when you sell. So you've got a placeholder if you ever want to transition back to Salah. For me, and I'm very much stats-driven, I know the City defense is like 0.2 XG, even though they're conceding one goal at the minute, just every time a ball goes near their goal, which is a bit annoying. I'm more in the camp where I'm looking for my third City option to be Edison because I think he's going to be locked on for 1 million clean sheets come second half of the year. And that obviously puts you on free City players. If you don't have free City players, you really want to get off Salah. The guy's quality enough to start most games. Just be prepared. 12.2 mil, like with Haaland, there will be rotation. I think there's better options.
Would you not rather just
7 mil?
Two of the previous guys we've spoken about instead of De Bruyne and Salah? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would you rather?
Yeah, I'd rather have
similar points.
I'd rather have a Sterling and save the extra 2 mil.
Yeah, and then would you?
And then turn a Pereira into one of the Trossard, Rashford, McAllister,
and then play a bit of Moneyball and rotate and.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Whatever you think.
I think the biggest one.
Sounds crazy going into it without De Bruyne and Salah. No primo midfielder.
I think that you're getting so much value in these 6.5, 7.5 million midfielders, even the 8. There's a couple of 8 million midfielders where the fixtures turn, which I'm sure we'll mention throughout the next couple of weeks as well. I actually think there's a lot of value in downgrading Salah, getting one of those guys in, and you actually go and put Kane, who's actually having a really good year, which is really going under the radar up top with Haaland.
Yeah,
and
Ben Jesus in 2 weeks.
Yeah, from there
Jesus up to Kane, De Bruyne or Salah down.
I think there's definitely a world. For me, it's more the fact with De Bruyne. If you're looking long term to the World Cup, I can kind of see it. If you're looking for a short term pump for your wild card, definitely wouldn't.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think they're the 5 that we identified that you could go to. The reason we did those 5 is because there was 3 different price points in there as well, which is sort of the way I wanted to structure that. So let us know, get in the comments, let us know if you enjoyed that little section there. We will try and have some data-heavy conversations moving forward in these Monday streams as well in preparation for the team selections on the Thursday or Friday. So we've got a few questions, but a few other players that we've sort of mentioned. I think Madison's someone you can really consider at 7.9. With some good fixtures coming up. Bowen's starting to look a little bit better as well. I know, Dame, you're pretty keen on him, especially if he gets down to 8. But we got a big question from Rods that I'll jump ahead to. So he does ask, is it time for Salah to go? I think there's a world where you definitely can move him on right now. But anyway, his second question is best replacements for Gabby Jesus. And I think you guys may not want to hear this, but I still think it's Ivan Toney. Like, I think it's a coin flip between Ivan Toney and Mitrovic, but at the price point, they've both just shown massive consistency in being able to return. They're both on penalties. They're both the focal points for their respective sides, and I haven't got the data in front of me for those 2 individuals, but would you agree with those 2 as the standouts, or is there anybody else that's jumping out to you guys that you could look to go Jesus down to someone else?
Look, I think you got to go with the standouts here. I think you got to go the Mitrovic and the Tonys. I think if you really want to go on a punty way, Isaac did look good yet again, just didn't get a return.
Should have finished as well, that chip.
Yeah. And he's got some good fixtures coming up. So I think short-term Isaac as well. And then if he looks good over that shorter period, right in some bigger fixtures, see what happens because he will be the main man. Outside of that, I have egg on my face because I went Jimenez. We know that he's quality. Just didn't happen for me in my little punt. I think the forward position is not a place you punt. You lock and forget your Harley, you lock and forget your other striker, and then it's one of Mitrovic, Tony. If you go on Haaland already up there with Kane, you lock those other players in. I feel like just go with who's in form and who's tried and tested. I think Mitrovic is fixture proof. So if you had to pick one, I'm probably going in.
Yeah, Dom.
Yeah, I can't see anyone outside of who Damo's messaged at this stage.
Yeah. So there's a definite world where you can turn that third forward. So for me, it's turning Jesus up to Kane, which would cost what? 4? Yeah, just under 4 million.
3.9
So
maybe.
Salah down to a 8 mil or so. So would you take Salah and Jesus or Kane and anyone we've spoken about tonight that's not Sterling practically?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you've got the choice there. You can take a Trossard, you can take a Maddison or a Bowen. Like I'd take them with a Harry Kane because Kane's scoring. He hasn't had the big haul yet, but next
scoring
week could be.
consistent.
I've made a move this week already. I haven't shown you guys, but I'll show you in the next stream that we do later in the week. So I needed to make one move this week. There was when I brought this player in as part of my wild card, I knew this was a game week that they were going to have to come out.
Yep.
And I'm not really prepared to make a move, another -4 this week. And I may need to take a hit next week to do what I want to do. So I thought this week we'll make the one transfer, we'll get it out the way before price rises. But there's definitely a world where Jared Bowen could potentially come into my team as someone who I was even thinking about starting the season with.
Yeah.
Bowen come in for Salah, and then
glad you mentioned him.
That turns Jesus up to Kane and doing it after the Man City fixture, which is what I really wanted to do.
As you can see, I have Bowen highlighted there. Expected points of 20.43 at this time already, only on a 13. There's some of the names that we've mentioned. They are sort of by points. If you go by expected points, you can see that a few of them have performed under and over as well. I think if you're looking at expected, a lot of people looking at expected goals or expected contributions.
The goal involvement's a bit low, though.
Yeah, you're looking at Bowen's and it's very low, but I also think it's a custom that West Ham have not started particularly well, and there's going to be time for him to move. I just would watch that space, make sure Bowen's nailed, and then obviously I think he's an option with his fixtures coming up. If you're looking at the best XG, out of that list, it's Diaz. If Diaz is beating Salah, it's actually Salah just. Diaz is the same as Salah, and Salah's underperforming his XG. Probably shows you there statistically. But I think the big one out of that list that you look at is you've got Sterling very close behind, and then it's Rashford, and they're all above 2. I think then you're looking at that with the stats, you're probably looking Sterling, Rashford as your 2 best bits. But you will say that Rashford's XG is from that miss against Sanchez as well.
Yeah. What would you say about Bukayo Saka at the moment, fellas?
We can add him in.
Got his first return or main return.
What I don't like is about the hit. I think he's a great player, but where's the backup at the right wing spot?
There's none. So he's
what if he gets burned out? Yeah, burnout.
The other factor is that he's locked.
It goes both ways.
Because I played Pepe and whatnot in the
talking to some Arsenal fans, they're not happy about not signing a backup right winger.
Yep.
Well, could Zinchenko play that role though? That's the other thing. He's done it before.
Everywhere. I think that there is a world where I stop the stream.
I think he's going to get burnt out.
I think there is definitely a world where their fixtures are okay right now. At 7.8 mil, there's a punt to be had there on him because he's a quality player. He's got his goal. He's got his return. This might be, a time that he starts to go a bit more. But watch the space. I think if you don't have Martinelli, then there's an easy answer. But I think the whole world has Martinelli by now. So I think I don't mind the stacker.
So there's a good question here from Damo. Thoughts on Rashford to Martinelli, but considering the Everton fixture at the moment. So is that the move you made, Dom? You jumped off.
That's the move I made. Yeah.
So you've jumped off Martinelli. So what made you jump off of Martinelli?
It's the Rashford playing as a 9. But Everton looked...
They've only conceded one goal in each game. Like, they've not conceded more than one goal this whole season
They're
per
defensively
game.
sound, but they just can't score goals.
Yeah, but then my worry is Arsenal have been looking quite fluid in attack as well. So there could be goals to be had potentially. Like, the Everton defense is only going to be able to hold up for so long. It's a very different defense as well. Only Michaelenko, I think, was the only player that was there last year. And obviously Pickford. And a lot of the games, it's Pickford making 6 or 7 saves. So that's just not sustainable either.
That was my point, is I actually think that Everton, as much as they've had some decent defensive performances, lots down to their keeper. I think Pickford's been unreal so far. I think if it's a world where if Arsenal get one early, especially inside the first 15 minutes, that could be a game where they score 3 or 4. Just look at Everton and look what we did. And we're not even in good form. And we really should have scored 2 or 3. I think a team like Arsenal, who are in good form, score one early, score a few. Fat Martinelli scored a very good, legitimate goal in the weekend, which was disallowed. Probably shows that I think Martinelli, Jesus, Saka as a punt, even the likes of Xhaka getting in that advanced areas that it's been getting in. I feel there's going to be goals to be had there for Arsenal this game week, and I think Saka would be a good punt.
No, he's saying for Martinelli.
But Martinelli would be a good punt too.
So you think ride him for one more week at least?
I think he would ride him for one more week. I think. Look, I wouldn't blame someone moving to Rashford this game week because I think you'd ride him for the next 2 before your wild card as well. But I would be looking to keep the Arsenal fixture against Everton and take someone else. If you have Salah, Rashford coming in for Salah makes more sense than taking out a Martinelli or a Saka for this game week for Rashford.
Alrighty, so let's get to some of the questions we've got here as well. What's the message to players who don't have Haaland? And that is from Dim.
I did it for a week. Don't recommend it.
We did it for 2 weeks, didn't we?
2 weeks, 2 hat-tricks. Hello, 5.8 mil rank. Yeah.
And I think
there you go.
the main thing, though, from our perspective was we recognised it and went, all right, we need him back. So don't be stubborn. Don't look at it that he scored 1 this week and it's like, oh, yep, it's okay, because that's the reason we got rid of him. We got rid of him after he had a 1-goal performance against Newcastle. We're like, and then he blanked the week before. We're like, is he actually that essential? Is he that, that guy that they're talking about? And then boom, 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 he goes and scores 6 goals in 2 games, and we're chasing tails now because we thought we'd be trendy and get ahead of this rotation crap.
Want to see how essential he is? This is why I love using live FPL rank. 191% effective ownership throughout the whole database, 131% around my rank of 5.8 mil, which, even at my lowly rank, people still got him at a higher effective ownership. I know people don't know about that effective ownership. Pretty much means if you're not captaining him, you don't have him, your rank straight away, it doesn't matter what the rest happens, it's just down the wazoo because everyone else has got him and getting his points. So is he essential? Yeah.
Big risk.
Get him in? Yeah.
It's a massive risk.
Would I take a -4, -8 to get him in right now, Dim? Yeah.
Yeah, which is what we did. I think we all collectively either took a -4 or -8 last week just to get him back because we knew that he was that good. And, we can probably talk about him more on Thursday. Big game against Tottenham. I don't see a world where he doesn't start against Spurs. So don't be surprised if he doesn't play big minutes midweek in Champions League against Sevilla because there's going to be 5 other games for them to make up, in the Champions League. But Spurs at home, I believe it is as well.
Yes.
They're going to be up and about.
And the fact most of us are sitting here thinking we're going to captain him over Salah, who plays Wolves, kind of shows you how important he might be.
Yep. Alrighty. Any final comments that you guys want to make? If you are in the chat, make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you like the stream because that is going to definitely help us get it out. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you go over to Twitter as well and follow FPL Departer over on Twitter. And get your final comments in the chat as well. If you've got your burning questions or you don't know what to do, get them in the chat now. If you do have a team that you want to show us, make sure you send it through so we can review it. Or, fellas, have we got anything that you want to bring up before we close for tonight?
Yeah, I do. I feel like that if you've had a bad game week this game week, look at everyone else that's releasing content at the minute. FPL, mate, got something like 30-something points. A lot of the top 10K legendary mariners got in 28, 29 points because a lot of the big names did blank this game week. If you if you had a game week where you had a lot of the big players blank, it's very similar to game week 3. Do not panic. Stick to your plan. That would be my only comment that I would make to the people watching this is they're good players for a reason. They don't become bad players overnight. Trust the process.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And that's the same with everyone saying big at the back. 2 weeks ago it was big at the back's dead. And then last week it was Cancelo that got the big return. And then everyone's like, big at the back's back. And then this week Trent gets hoofed after 58 minutes and Cancelo doesn't get a clean sheet and Chelsea concede a goal, So just don't overreact. I think that's the key. Like, have a structure, have a plan. And that's where we're at now. Like, obviously, we did a big restructure and we probably pulled our wild cards too early on reflection. And that's something that, we'll live by. But granted, in other circumstances, the only reason I think we've pulled that wild card is because we're going to get another 2 anyway throughout the season. So there's still time to pull it back together, which is fine. I don't know, Berger, you've said these are my transfer plans for game week 8 and they're not there at the moment. So obviously you're thinking probably 2 transfers ahead at the moment, which I think a lot of people are in that boat, but I don't think any of us are going to be. It sounds like. I don't know if you're holding on, Damo, for dear life this week with Jimenez sitting on the bench.
I'm rolling at the moment because he's on the bench and my team looks good and I want to give Salah one more game week against Wolves. But there is part of me that wants to put Salah out for Sterling this game week, but there's also part of me who wants to go Bowen. I think I'll give him one more week to allow to see what Bowen does as the fixtures start to swing. Will allow me to go to Bowen or go to Sterling. I don't know.
Don't worry about Bowen, mate.
I think Bowen's fixtures go real good, and he's a quality player.
All right, here we go. Here is Berger's side at the moment. So if you aren't in the Discord, I might see if anyone is in the chat, put the link to the Discord in the chat as well. He's got Sanchez and Ward, Cancelo, Trent, Zinchenko, Trippier, Perisic. That is very solid at the back. Martinelli, Gross, Sterling, Gundy, Andreas. So no premium midfielder with Jesus, Tony, and Erling Haaland up front. So pretty solid side there, to be fair. I just wonder how much is left in the bank. The only thing I don't know about Gundy at 7.5, because we've seen that there's been times where he does get rotated probably more than the other midfielders. But when he does play, he does more often than return. But yeah, for that third City slot, you could, if that's a wild card team, then that's pretty solid. Otherwise, you could look at someone like a Trossard and then triple up Brighton potentially as well. But barring that,
don't mind that.
I think that's pretty solid.
I feel like Gundogan's the sort of player that when he plays is kind of the best asset out of the rest of the midfielders because he gets so advanced. You got 0.8 mil in the bank as well there, Berg. That's nice. Good side. I feel like if you're prepared to know that he's going to miss games, I don't mind riding.
And there's depth in every position there, though. It's not like no one plays. So if he doesn't play, then someone else is going to come off the bench. That's solid. With 0.8, obviously, you can't move a Jesus on to anyone else, but I like that. It's pretty solid.
I think it's a really good side. I've still got Tony there too.
All right. I reckon that will wrap us up for tonight. Thank you guys for your coming in clutch. We got one more team.
Here we go.
As I was wrapping it up, I'm not even going to tell you guys who it is until I load it up. Just give me 1 minute. It is on its way onto the screen. Let me get it up.
Here we go.
I don't know if Dom's seen this one. Here we go. Let's share the screen. Let's go. Big Giuseppe. Gets his team in.
Let's do it,
Giuseppe Marignello the second.
Gets his big team in, and looking at that team,
on the park.
That is very solid because there is a big decision to make. And I actually like the bench is really solid too with Walker, Emerson, Mitrovic. So you've got Melier in goal, Trippier, James, Dalot against Crystal Palace, Diaz, Gross, Sterling, De Bruyne, Aronson, Isaac, and Haaland. You're saying get Mitrovic on the park. Who do you take off?
That's a good question.
There's not really a clear option to take
Aronson
off.
against Forest, I like. Forest
So
should
do I.
goals.
And I like Diaz against Wolves.
You know what? Leave it as
And
it
the
is.
armband on Sterling at home.
That's a big call. I'd probably whack it on Haaland.
I'll probably whack the armband on Haaland
But
myself as well.
Spurs have been defensively solid.
I think
It's those games, though. These games are different.
Yeah.
Big games. You know, I reckon you'll be
Team's
open.
unreal.
Yeah, that's a very solid
good.
side, Joe.
For
I'll rate it.
a no Salah side, that's good. That's why I want to go no Salah, because you can get a team that looks like that.
Yeah. To have Sterling, De Bruyne, Haaland, Isaac, and Mitrovic. So what are you're going no Trent, no Cancelo. So that's the thing, though. You're going real. Yeah, your premium defender is Reece James, Damo. So would you be prepared to ride no Cancelo and no Trent to have Sterling, De Bruyne, and Haaland with Diaz?
No.
History's
I
saying,
wouldn't, but at the moment that's working. So
well,
it's a big risk. But I think having Trippier, James, if you could turn Walker into someone else, like into a more
what's that injury around Walker?
I don't think it's crazy, but I just think you'd want to turn that 5 million defender into someone that's going to have a chance of assist. I would almost rather. It does give you the City clean sheet, and that's the problem. It doesn't lock it, but it's a solid City clean sheet. So I don't think you're going to find a defender at 5 mil that's going to get you the chances other than Trippier. That's safe, but you're just going to lose on those attacking returns.
A Brighton defender.
That's what I'm saying. So they're more likely to, if you get a Stupian, more likely for an attacking return. But at the moment, Brighton aren't looking like they're going to keep lots of clean sheets. Palace, you could look at like a Tyreek Mitchell, maybe.
Gameweek 12 for sure.
Yeah, once the fixtures turn. But, Dalot at the moment, the way Man United are playing, we spoke about Dalot early in pre-season as well, that if he was locked in and Man United were playing good football, then he'd be someone at 4-5 that we'd consider. Definitely.
But now he's come good.
Yeah.
So nice team there. Nice, Joe. And that is where we're going to wrap everything up. So if you do want to get your teams evaluated on the stream, make sure that you jump in the Discord, or if you know us personally, you can go in the back door, as Joe did. But that's where we're at for
it's not just us reviewing, it's also the chat, puts their opinion in.
Yeah. The community.
Yeah.
And before we go, here we go. Another big question. I'm looking at Elise and Eze as cheap
I love it.
attackers.
I think looking at Eze so big.
Eze could be a steal, but he's playing deep though.
But I reckon
part of the three.
When the fixtures turn,
he's a bowler.
Yeah, when the fixtures turn, he's on.
He is class. Anyway, that is where we're going to wrap up tonight's stream. If you haven't already, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you are subscribing here to the FPL Departer channel as well, because it's definitely going to help us with that growth moving forward. We want to include everybody that we can amongst this community, because we know that it's fantastic at the moment, but the more the merrier. So if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share it to everybody you know that plays FPL. Let's build that community. We've got the code on the screen. Feel free to share that code with as many people as you like. By the end of the year, it'd be awesome if we could get up to like 20 people in the Classic League. We've had some people join in that literally started playing in Game Week 5, and we've had someone this week join in who's already above us. He's come in top. So
not hard.
We're more than happy to take on whoever, that wants to be a part of this community. So plenty happening, plenty of videos. Follow the Twitter, exactly. Lots of content coming. I think Dame and I may start putting our individual team reviews and previews as well, where we can go a bit more in detail rather than just sort of touching on who's scored what points and what we're thinking about as well. So make sure post notifications go on, like and subscribe, and we will see you guys either Thursday or Friday, depending on what we've got on, for our Game Week 7 preview. Who would have thought? Ciao, guys.
Yeah.